Hello, hello. We are live here at Socially Powered Digital Marketing Show with the fabulous and amazing Kate Erickson. Welcome, Kate. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you, Erin. I'm so excited to be here. I always love hanging out with you in person. I'll take virtually.
Right.
So,
Well, good thing is, hopefully, I'll get to see you in a month or so in person in fabulous Puerto Rico.
I hope so.
Yes, yeah. Um, so I'm super excited to chat with you today. And whenever we do get to see each other in person, I always feel like I come away with so much from you. So I'm
Aw.
super excited to bring you to everybody today.
Yay. Thank you for that. That's so
Yeah.
sweet. I just
Oh,
had
that
I just had such an awesome flashback of us taking a selfie in Florida before we went to
that's
an amazing Italian restaurant.
yes,
Am
yes.
I recalling the
Yeah,
state
that
correctly?
was that
Podcast movement.
was that
Yeah.
last year?
Yeah, 2019. It
Okay.
feels like 5 years ago.
It really does. It really
Yeah.
does. But yeah, that was an amazing dinner. And
Oh my gosh, so good.
then what did we do after? Wasn't there like a dance party or karaoke or
I think we tried to go to karaoke. We might have gotten kicked out because it
oh,
was like
that's very possible. Very
well, for
possible.
like not for being too unruly. I think it was already like 1 a.m. or something.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Whoops.
Well, that's definitely been known to happen.
Yeah.
So I don't know if everybody, watching knows who you are, but Kate is the amazing engine that really makes everything run at Entrepreneurs on Fire. So it was funny when I was looking at your bio and I didn't realize this. We both left corporate America the same year.
No
So
way.
what month did you leave?
Um,
Escape.
October. October was my last month at my job. October 2011.
Oh wait, I thought it was 2013.
Oh, okay. Because I went back to corporate.
Oh, you did. You left and then went back.
So I left the first time November 2011. Then I went back and left April of 2013.
Okay.
So what month were you?
So I left the end of August. So technically it was more like September
Okay.
2013. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been 7 years and I can't ever imagine going back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt that way the first time and then I went back and then I definitely felt that way the second time.
Yeah. Yeah. I 100%. It's funny because I actually left a job and then ended up going back. And when I went back the second time, I was like, what? Why am I doing this again? I can't believe I'm back
I
here. And
bet
I ended up staying for a really long time the second time too.
I'm so
So,
glad that that's common because I actually had one job. I went back to it 3 times.
oh my God.
Is that like the same job?
Right.
And
That's
I'm like,
crazy.
I guess this is awesome that I left on such great terms that they want me
Right.
back for
Yeah.
a third time. Like, I'm so grateful for that
Yeah.
because it
Oh, that's
really did
funny.
save my rear when that happened.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That is funny. So when you left corporate, then you started Kate's Copy, right?
Yeah, the first time.
Okay. And so
Mhm.
with Kate's Copy, you were doing copywriting?
You would think. That was my goal, but then I realized that I couldn't just like do copywriting because that meant nothing to anyone. I didn't have a niche, so I kind of went in search of a niche. And at the time, I was living in Portland, Maine, in the old port specifically. So I was like, oh, well, if I niche down, what if I go to brick and mortar businesses in the old port and I help them get an online presence and I'll do all the copywriting for their website. So I'll help them get online. I'll do all the copy and everything so they can rank SEO and like all that good stuff. And I still managed to get 0 clients with
Well,
that.
but that's
So
back in the early days of all of this too. So people probably weren't ready for you.
definitely, which seems which seems kind of crazy because 2011, like into 2012, yeah, a lot of businesses just weren't online, and there really wasn't a great way to, well, I wasn't good at convincing them that they should be, which I don't know. That's
I mean, it's funny because I feel like there's still businesses today that are that way, which
true.
is just crazy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Anna's asking if you're available for hire.
I have a bit of a full plate right now, but thank you, Anna. I appreciate that.
Right? So I am going back to podcast movement because I remember I was like, oh, I have to go to Kate's session because I knew that you were gonna, and that was the craziest session because remember we had a fire alarm.
A fire alarm. Yes, we had a fire drill in the middle of my session.
Yeah. That was so funny. So I know you gave all kinds of great tips for like just helping people manage a podcast because I know before like I produce the Bad Crypto podcast and there's so many moving parts that it's hard to keep it all straight, to keep it all together. And you had some great tips for things to help you save time and energy and really just put processes into what you're doing. So would you share some of those with the audience? And it, I guess, doesn't necessarily have to be only related to podcasting because some of those things I use in other parts of my business that are totally unrelated.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my big thing that I love talking about and that I feel I do really well in our business, like I consider it my zone of genius, is systems and making sure that you're doing something most efficiently and most effectively because it's not always just about being efficient, like it has to be effective too, right? So that presentation that you're referring to, yes, I talked specifically about podcasting systems, but it's pretty much finding anything repeatable. So whether you are working on the medium of like a blog, a YouTube channel, social media, podcasting, anything, like physical products, Amazon, it applies to anything. Really, oh, what's up, Mario?
Thanks.
Yeah. It's really about finding things that you do repeatedly and creating systems and processes for those. So, for example, like one that I love to use is my podcast, Ditch Busy. I do a solo show. So I create the content, it's not interviews. And something so simple that saves me loads of time is I have an episode template. So I batch preparing my content, I batch recording my content, and then I batch editing my content. So instead of sitting down and brainstorming, writing an episode, recording it, and then editing it, I prepare like 5 episodes. Then another day I record 5 episodes, and another day I edit 5 episodes. Even just the very first part of preparing that content, I have a content template. So every one of my episodes, I follow the same type of intro to introduce the topic. Then I have like the same, kind of like, hey, this is Kate and this is Ditch Busy, yada, yada. Then I go into a certain set of steps or like whatever the meat of the content is going to be. So I'll create an outline for myself.
Right.
And then I have the same outro and I have rotating calls to action. So that is something that I do on a repeated basis. Like every time I create an episode, I'm going through that. So having that template saves me a ton of time because I don't have to think like, okay, how should I introduce this? Like I introduce all my topics the exact same way. Or like, how am I going to talk about this? And then like, I'm trying to start recording, but then I'm thinking about what I even want to say. Like I take care of all of that beforehand. So it's about breaking down what you do on a regular, repeatable basis, and then being able to create templates, checklists, flows, so that like exactly what's going to happen when you sit down to do that thing. It saved you loads of time.
So that is, I do the same thing. Definitely, I love templates, and I think I probably did this because of you. In fact, I know for sure one of the things I do, which is your process for communicating with guests, because I know we talked about this and you shared with me what you guys do, and I implemented that into the Bad Crypto podcast and into my podcast, which is like communicating multiple times with your guests. So I actually have all of those in Gmail templates. So then all I have to do is just go change the name, change the date, change the time of whatever it is that I'm sending them. So it's like, hey, can't wait to record with you tomorrow at whatever time, and here's the link, or something along those lines.
And it's not only about saving time and being efficient and effective and all of that. It's also just the fact that you're communicating with your guests and giving them a good experience and staying in touch with them, helping them prepare. And all of that creates the experience that your guest has. So in that scenario and situation, like that's important, because if your guest has a great experience and they feel taken care of and prepared well, then what comes time when the episode publishes, like they're going to be happy to share that. And that is like a huge goal of, growing your podcast and everything.
So your process, I think I modified yours, but I know for Bad Crypto, I typically do the email a day before. Well, once they've scheduled, it's like a thanks for scheduling, and then a day before, and then I do a after thank you for recording, and then depends. Sometimes I'll do the once I've scheduled, like I know what day they're gonna go. The episode's gonna be live, because I know you guys do the same thing where you're recording for who knows, I don't know how far out you guys are now, but we're typically like a month out. And then once the podcast is live and available, then I send, an email with all the links, all the images, everything that they need to go promote. And I know you do the same.
It's so and not only like being prepared and having all of that ready, but like the templates, like you mentioned in Gmail, and there's so many different programs that you can use to help with that. I mean, Gmail has the built-in templates that you can create, which is awesome. Boomerang for Gmail is an awesome tool, because you can even schedule out emails or send reminders and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, the possibilities are truly endless. You just have to give yourself the time and space to think like, okay, how could I improve a set of steps that I take over and over and over again? So like, for anyone tuning in who's like, well, I don't know what to do it for, like start just being aware of the things that you're doing multiple times a day, multiple times a week, and then start picking apart like those pieces.
What are your favorite tools? Because I feel like we use different stuff. Because I pretty much am all for planning the podcast anyway. I use Trello and Google Drive, to store everything. But Trello is kind of my go-to for like visualizing,
like project management and stuff. Yeah. I use Asana. Like I've used Trello before and it's great. I love Asana. I use that for all my task and project management. So even like my daily to-dos are in Asana for me. So every day when I sit down at my computer, I pull up Asana and like I immediately have my list of like the things that are due today. Because everything that I need to get done, I assign it to myself in there so that I don't forget, so that I don't have to like go fumbling through papers and all this kind of stuff. I love Google Drive. I also use like Google Docs to prepare my episode content and all of that. I mentioned Boomerang. Boomerang is like if you're like a project manager or responsible for communications at all, I feel like a tool like Boomerang, even if you're not using Gmail, like Outlook, any email system has some form of Boomerang. So just like Google Boomerang for, and then whatever like email system you're using.
Right.
It's been such a game changer for me, because people are like, busy. Like they're not, if you're responsible for obtaining a piece of information, a document, confirmation, like anything like that, like you have to assume the responsibility to follow up with that person, and Boomerang Like you literally just check a box and it will send the email back to you if the person hasn't responded to you. So
Right.
I do so much follow-up and communications. Like that's such a huge part
Well,
of what
yeah.
I'm
It's when you're running a podcast, it's a constant, like, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'm looking for somebody's bio or headshot or
Mm.
links or whatever it is that I need. And I mean, a lot of times I just go get it. I go hunt it down myself because I'm not getting it from,
Yeah.
the person I
You
need it
know
from.
what's a good one for that is what scheduler do you use? Do you use like Schedule Once or
For
for booking
the,
people on the podcast?
no, well,
What did I book
calendar,
one with? Calendly?
yeah, Calendly.
Calendly? Yeah.
Yeah.
So in there, you can actually preset like questions and requirements so that when someone books, they have to give you that information. So then that way you would have it all in one place. And I mean, I was going to talk about a scheduler next because for anyone who does coaching, group meetings, if you are ever scheduling anything with somebody else, you should be leveraging a scheduler like Calendly or
Right.
Schedule Once. Both of them are great. And you can actually have like that preset information to say like, or you could even have like in your follow-up email, like, hey, next step is to fill out this form. And you can keep pinging them until they fill out the form. It could be like a Google form or,
Right. That's actually, I just set that up on mine. I'm curious.
Mm.
So I use calendar.com,
Oh.
and I'm curious if there's a way that I can do it within there. But so I've just been doing a follow-up email once they've scheduled
Mm.
that says, hey, thanks for scheduling. Please go. And then I have a link to a Google form where they go put in their bio, links to social media,
Mhm.
and attach a headshot.
Yeah.
So, but I
Yeah.
wonder if
So
there's a way to put that within the invite, make it
right.
one less step.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I've not used Calendar before, but I'd imagine that they have that.
Right. I'm sure they
Yeah.
do. I probably
Yeah.
just need to look into it. So
Hey.
another tip that I took from you was, and now I can't think of what it's called. Text expander.
Ooh, yes.
Yes. So
Love Text Expander.
yeah.
I actually just did an entire episode on Text
That's
Expander
funny
on my
because I was
podcast.
looking at your recent podcast and I saw that one.
Yeah. So Text Expander is one of my favorite tools. The reason I did a specific episode on it is because someone reached out to me and they're like, I've heard you talk about Text Expander a million times because I obsessively talk about it. Very true. And they're like, but I don't feel like I'm using it right or I haven't done enough or like something's not connecting because the way you talk about it and the way I'm using it like doesn't match up. So
Right.
Text Expander allows you to create shortcuts or short keys for things that you type out a lot. And I know that you know this, but I'm just saying
Yeah.
for
No.
anybody else who doesn't know what it is. And so like my bio, I get asked for my bio a lot. And anybody who's in the podcasting space or the speaking space or any like does summits or interviews, videos, like you probably get asked for certain things a lot. All of my social media, like links and profiles and all of that is set up with short keys in Text Expander. So when somebody asks me for my bio, instead of having to like go copy and paste it from somewhere or heaven forbid you're actually typing it out every time.
Oh,
I
God.
really hope nobody's doing that.
I really hope they aren't either.
But even like going and copying and pasting it, like that can be a pain, right?
Mhm.
So Text Expander, I just type out 3 keys and my entire bio appears. So it literally expands text
So
into
I have a
paragraphs.
question for you because my biggest problem with it is remembering what I used for this short code.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you have like a system that to help you remember whatever it is?
I use abbreviations whenever possible. So, like, my email address is KKK because my name starts with K and it's the same letter 3 times. Like, that's pretty simple. My bio is KLE bio because, like, I also try and think of things that I wouldn't actually type out because I don't
Right.
know if you've ever done a short key where you actually type that out a lot.
Yeah,
And then,
right.
like, in the middle of a sentence, it expands. You're like, no, I didn't want it to do that.
Yes. Mine is thank you.
Oh,
I have like on my phone anyway, I have it set up for like TY as thank you. But
uh-huh.
whenever you go to write somebody's name, the like Tyler or something,
Yeah.
then it writes thank you. And I'm like, no.
Okay, so for that, I put a hyphen in front of it. So
Um, right,
the Mastery Journal, the Freedom Journal, the Podcast Journal are all websites that I type out a lot. So hyphen TPJ, hyphen TMJ, hyphen TFJ. So I just put
that makes
hyphens
sense.
in front of anything that ends up being. So I
Right.
mean, it's like a learning curve remembering some of the stuff. There are even times where like ones that I don't use that often, like I'll forget them. But it's super easy to I just pull up Text Expander and I start typing in the search box and then bring it up.
Right.
And the more you use it and the more familiar you become with it, you'll start to remember those.
So I just have to add in here because when you told me about that, one of the things that I use it for the most is for Instagram stories or on Instagram. So for stories, I have like hashtag BCP story, and then it populates all the hashtags. So I
Oh,
don't
love
have
it.
to go put all those hashtags in. And then, you want to change up your hashtags. But so then I just will go add or delete whatever doesn't make sense with whatever I'm talking about. But that
Yeah.
saves so much time.
I love that. I was just thinking of like hashtags on social media as a great one to create a
Yeah.
shortcut for.
Yeah. Well, and then my other thing I'm drinking my coffee still with my Agorapulse mug. And so that's one of the things within Agorapulse, you can set up hashtag groups. And I see Deb's on here. She knows I always talk about Agorapulse because it's like my favorite thing for scheduling. But
Uh-huh.
I love that they, just having those groups, you just click, okay, that's the group I need, and then it populates all your hashtags and yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, all these like sneaky little snippet things they're so valuable. They're so helpful.
Yeah, they really are. So I know one of your recent podcasts I saw was 3 steps to take back an hour a day. So
Ooh.
I didn't go listen because I wanted it to be new when we talked, but I'm very intrigued by that.
Okay, I'm going to pull it up so I could tell you exactly what the 3 steps are. I'm
Okay.
just opening my Google Doc template where I have my
Right.
notes from all my podcast episodes. So,
Perfect.
see how
I
easy
should have
that is?
warned you
Like,
I was going to ask you this.
oh, no worries. I'm sure everyone understands.
Right.
3 steps. See, all I had to do was do a command F and type in 3 steps, and it took me right to my episode workflow.
Nice.
Okay, so the first one is figuring out what you do every day that can become a habit. So I'm a huge James Clear fan. Do you follow James Clear at all?
No. Okay, I guess then.
Atomic Habits,
Oh,
really
okay,
great
okay, okay.
content.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he talks a lot about habits and how if you can, and decision making and decision fatigue, which is a huge interest of mine because I've not always been the best decision maker. I'm much better at it now. And so he talks about creating habits. And one of the great examples that he gives is like, if you want to work out every morning, like instead of waking up in the morning and being like, do I want to work out today? Like if you just already make that decision without having to ask yourself the question, and he gives the example of like, just put your gym clothes out so that when you wake up, like the first thing that you see is your gym clothes and just put them on. And once you have your gym clothes on, like you're obviously going to work out. Like, so
Right.
you create habits without having to make decisions about the things that you're doing. Very common examples of things that are already habits for us. Like you don't ask yourself whether or not you're going to brush your teeth every day. Like you just do
I
it.
hope
It's a
not.
habit. Yeah. Like don't just do it.
Please.
So the first step to take back an hour of your time every day is to look at the things in your day and figure out what you can create a habit out of so that you're not spending time asking yourself whether or not you should do that thing. Another example, like something that I actively did this within the last couple of years that I also talk about all the time is washing the dishes every morning before I start work, because for some reason, like, I let the kitchen be a distraction for me. And so instead of like trying to decide like, oh, well, should I do that? Like, that's just part of my habit. I don't ask myself whether or not I want to wash the dishes. It's just part of what I do. It's a habit for me now. So save a ton of time. I always have a clean kitchen, which is great. So that's an example of like something that you're going to do it every day anyways. So you might as well make a habit out of it so you can start saving time in the process.
I love that.
So what do you do every day that can become a habit? Number 2 is, what's one thing you're doing on a daily basis that doesn't actually need to happen? So a lot of the times we do stuff just because we're going through motions, right? We're robotic about some things that like don't even need to happen. And there's probably a good number of things in your day that like you don't need to do them in order to get through that day. So in the respect of like looking at a day and being like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do and I don't have enough time to do it. If you can cut out things that you don't need to do, like, why would you not do that? Right. Let me see what I have for an example here. At least one thing. Oh, okay. So my example is like, if you have this habit, which maybe you should look at some of your habits and undo them as habits so they're not habits. But if you're like scrolling through Instagram and you're like, oh, well, I'm just going to go real quick because I have a message to send to this person, or I'm going to go real quick because I'm going to like actually hit post on my scheduled whatever. But then you end up in Instagram for like an hour. So
easy to do.
yeah, absolutely. And I've totally been there. I'll raise my hand all day to that. But those are the types of things that you don't have to be doing that. So if you're looking to gain back time, you just need to stop doing the things that aren't actually necessary. Maybe
Right.
5 minutes of that is necessary because it's part of your business flow or whatever, but it doesn't need to be like an hour-long process. And then number 3 is actually what we've been talking about a lot, is what's one system you can create to help you save time. So what's one thing that you do on a daily basis that you could create a template for, a checklist for, that you could delegate maybe even parts of it to somebody else,
Right.
that you could systemize or automate with the help of an online tool like Text Expander, Boomerang, like we've been talking about a lot of great tools. So what's one thing that you do every day that you could create a system around? So those are the 3 things. If it doesn't, I bet it gets you more than an hour back of your time if you actually do those 3 things.
That's awesome. I love it. So this has been amazing. I want to know what is the best place to connect with you. Obviously, go subscribe to Ditch Busy and Kate's Take, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, the other one,
Entrepreneurs on
Entrepreneurs on
Fire.
Fire. That little podcast.
That one. Yeah, I mean, everything we do is under the Entrepreneurs on Fire umbrella. So Kate's Take, Ditch Busy, our blog, we have a ton of free courses. We have podcasting content. We have content for building funnels in your business, all free courses. So all of that is over at eofire.com. And speaking of Instagram, I love Instagram. So if anyone wants to follow me over there, I am at Kate Erickson.
Cool. And I'll link to everything in the show notes for this. So
awesome.
Yay. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing so many amazing tips.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And thanks everyone tuning in. If you're watching live or if you're watching a replay, thanks so much for tuning in.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks, Kate.
Bye.
Bye.